disturbance there, Harish?
No, sir. I think Zaki is on floor. I think.
Can you just unmute?
That's the.
Yeah, I think it's loud and clear. So welcome to Simandhar Education. Thank you so much for everyone who have joined in the webinar and who are watching us on YouTube. So yes, we have Raghav Swaminathan. He's the CFO of Wipro Enterprises. It's an absolute delight to have Raghav among all of us. I know it have taken a little bit of time to bring in Raghav here. He has been completely preoccupied with so many meetings and all. And again, we really appreciate his valuable time which he have taken out. Firstly, on a holiday, it's not an easy thing to take out time on a holiday and coming in for the students and the aspirants. Thank you so much, Raghav sir, for coming in here. And over to you, Harish.
Yes. Hey guys, good morning, and thank you so much, Raghav sir, on behalf of the students and Simandhar Education for taking out time and for this session. So, guys, here is Raghav sir. He is the CFO of Wipro India, and he has 23 years of global finance and leadership experience in industrial, FMCG, and IT. There's a lot to introduce about Raghav sir, but few things about he's really specialized in is he is specialized in developing global footprint and cost optimization and the maximizing value of lean quality and productivity, portfolio expansion, and he has a huge understanding of technology and its transformation impact on business enablers and its drivers. So thank you so much, Raghav sir. And guys, I hope you are ready with your questions, and it will be more of an interactive session rather than having a PPT. Raghav sir really want to get in through the session and interact with you guys. He won't be having any PPT, so the whole session will be an interactive session. He'll be asking you questions and you can ask him questions. But before that, please raise your hand or please type your questions in the chat box so that it won't be a chaos in the group. And I hope you guys remember it's the session on skills for the new decade. What are the skills required for the new decade? Okay. And yes, Raghav sir, it's all yours.
Hey, great. Hi everybody. Thanks, Harish. Thanks, Sripal. Thanks, Simandhar Education, for having me here today. It's an absolute delight to be with all of you today. I love interacting with my team, students, and people, exactly like the community like yours. So I'm hoping to make this interaction and lively, and you can ask me anything, whatever you want. Am I loud and clear, Harish?
Yes, Raghav.
Okay, great. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is, let me tell you a couple of things. Harish told that I have 25 years of plus experience. I've been doing various things in my life, worked with various people in India and overseas. But what I want to tell you first thing is that, people like me who have spent so much time, we tend to templatize things and say, look, these are the 5-7 things it's important for you, or these are the 8-9 things which you should do in your career. And I think I just want to give one caveat around that is that these are just merely pointers, because you have to look at these pointers from the context of your own experience, of where you are professionally. And some of them may resonate, some of them may not resonate, and that's perfectly okay. But and that's important for you to basically remember as you kind of go forward in your career, in your profession, in your life, that not every template fits you, but you have to create your own unique template for your own unique selves, and that I truly believe, right? Some of the skills which I'll talk about today are really truisms. They hold good for all time and for all time, but some of them tend to get amplified in the digital age we are in, because it's very different right now than what it was 10, 15, 20 years back. So I think you got to kind of remember that in mind, that some of these are truisms. They're good for all time. But hopefully what I share today is basically going to be some perspectives which will make some context with your life, what you're doing. And I hope that some of them resonate with you. And even if it does not, it's okay. You will pick it up at some point of time in your life, and you'll say, that's what that's what 10 years back I heard this. Now it's starting to kind of make sense. And I'll segue into an example, because when I was a kid, right, I completely, by fourth standard, finished reading the entire works of Swami Vivekananda. It's about, I think, 8 or 10 volumes. And let me tell you that I did not understand anything what was being said at that point in time. But it took me 30 years later that I really started to understand what Swami Vivekananda was saying. So perspectives in life, especially from somebody who's coming from me, the difference between you and me is that I've just been through series of more experiences than you, right? So I'm having a vantage point which is a bit different. But therefore, when you contextualize that in your life and your experience, that's when it really kind of starts to make sense. Okay. And what I'm going to say is by no means exclusive, or top 15 is something which I'm saying, is something which I have picked up over time. But you just have to remember that it's not, and there could be many, many more. And therefore, today you can pick up many, many perspectives from many, many people. And that's really the point. You have to get perspectives from various people. So let me jump right into it. What do I think are the skills of the top decade? I'm going to list 15 of them, and I'm going to pace myself through as we cannot go forward, and then we'll try and give some some time for questions and answers. So let me jump right into it. What is a skill? A skill is defined as the ability to do something well, an expertise. That's what, if you go to a Webster dictionary and look at it, that's what a skill means. But adding skills is really the key to your success in your life and in your profession. And adding skills is really building a toolkit for yourself. When you start off in your career, you start picking up small things from your teachers in school, then in college, then institutions like Simandhar, then interacting with various people. It's a toolkit which you build. And that's the way you have to frame yourself. You have to start building this toolkit. And this toolkit consists of your own experiences, what you've read, what people you interact with, perspectives which you get. That's how your toolkit starts to build. And the richer your toolkit, your ability to do well becomes absolutely far more easier, better, and maybe success is assured in what you're kind of doing. And so let me start with the first one. The first one is, look, guys, it does not matter where you come from, your background, your upbringing. It does not matter. You have to let go of that. The fact that you're here today, you're already arrived. What you make out of your life is completely something which you have to look at it from your standpoint. And why I'm saying this gets more amplified in the digital age is 90% of what you have to learn today is actually available already in the internet. So nobody really needs to really have to teach you, because it's all there available in the net. So whatever your background, however humble your beginnings have been, whatever hardships you have gone through, that's great. It has made you great as a person, but it's important that that thing will really help you in your life, but it never should become a baggage. Don't ever think that, I did not have something, or I did not have that, or I had this and therefore I should be at an advantage. So whatever you come from, wherever you come from, absolutely does not matter in the next decade and the decades to come. It will absolutely not matter. All success stories in India are people from very, very common backgrounds, very impoverished backgrounds. And that's why I think India is a great country where you see multiple examples of that. So you should absolutely believe that the future is really in your hands. And even when I hire people, I always tend to hire somebody who's had a very tough background or a very common background, because I believe that that's what makes people. And that's what gives them the strength. So where you come from absolutely does not matter for what you're going to do in the future. That's what I call numbers. It's not really a skill, but it's a mindset which I guys want you to have. And therefore it's a skill. Don't ever get into the mindset that, look, what I did in the past is of any relevance in the future. Number two, reading is the new competitive advantage. Most of you who have started reading, I don't know what kind of reading you do, but that's a new competitive advantage of the future. Many, many years ago, my dad used to make me read the editorials in Hindu. I was based in Chennai at that point in time, and I used to hate it because It's a subject which I never understood at that point in time, but he used to make me just read the editorials, not the news item, the editorials. Why the editorials? Because the editorials in a paper actually give insight in terms of what is really happening. It's not a news item, they're giving a point of view. Very important. So that's how I built my ability to read. Today, it's all digital platforms are available for you to read. But the important thing for you to understand is really how to read. And that becomes very important. Let me give you two things around how to read. Number one, make it a habit. Number two, make it an efficient listening post. There is Twitter, platform, everything. You got to kind of look at it from that standpoint. It's a good listening post for you. Number three, try and recall it. The real efficacy of reading comes when you try to recall stuff. And that's extremely important for you to do, because that's how it stays in your memory. So that you got to basically kind of do that. For example, in a morning today, once I wake up, maybe after 10, 15 minutes, I look at Twitter feeds, because Twitter is a distribution platform for me. I follow some 500 people, and this 500 people are people whom I want to listen to. And that's the beauty of it. Today, if they're tweeting something in New York, and I understand what they are actually already talking about, and I'm able to get it in real time, in seconds, to understand what they're really talking about. So make social media a smart listening tool for yourself. That's really number two. Reading is the new competitive advantage. Increasing your digital quotient. Let me tell you, when I started my career, there was no internet, right? So today I'm a CFO of an organization where people are asking me to basically talk about, how digitization is going to improve the organization. So how did I do that? How I'm able to, as a CFO, talk about it today, though my career when I started it did not really kind of have any digital quotient. And that is specifically point number three, as a tool, as a skill for the new decade, is increasing your digital quotient. You have to understand what digital means, because digital touches everything of what you're going to do in your career as you touch. And therefore, you have to understand how technology is going to help you do your job better, what kind of value add technology can basically do. And in this, I have a simple concept which I want to introduce. I call it the concept of reverse mentoring. Today, I'm here supposedly to mentor you guys and talk to you about my experiences. But I also do reverse mentoring, which is people mentor me to tell me what is happening on technology, what can I do? Because I have not been born in this particular age. I was born many, many years ago. But that doesn't mean that I cannot learn. And my ability to learn comes from much, much younger people, because they understand digital the way I would never understand or appreciate. So that's why I call it the concept of reverse mentoring. So increase your digital quotient. That's really point number three in terms of the skill for the next decade and the future. Number four, writing skills. Why do I say this writing skills is extremely important? I don't know how many of you know that Jeff Bezos, in his direct reports, what he does is he doesn't look at PPTs, he doesn't look at PowerPoint presentations, or he doesn't look at anything like that. What he's doing is he's asking his direct reports, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, he's asking him to write up. If there is a concept which his team wants to introduce, he will say, prepare, write it up for me and tell me what exactly do you want to do. It's tremendous. You may think it's simple, it's very, very difficult, because writing skills require great clarity of thought, number one, good command of language, number two, and great content. So you should develop writing skills, start blogging, start writing articles, whatever blogging can be. Don't do it because you think somebody else has to read it, but do it because you think it will really improve your skills. So start early, start blogging, start, writing about stuff, even if it's 5 lines. Okay, if you're not able to write even blogs and articles, no problem. Tweet about it. How do you tweet about something? You'd say that, in 4 lines, you're able to capture what you're really kind of thinking. Have the skill. This will become a huge competitive advantage for you as you go forward. Today, when Mr. Premji asked me to write something on it, and recently in my last voting, I remember, I was trying to explain a particular concept to him and he said he did not understand. So I said, then he told me, okay, look, why don't you write about it? And you just explain a note to me. And in that, when I'm writing about a concept, then I have to be absolutely clear that when he reads it, he understands. And for me to do it today is because I have read it, I have the habit of writing, and I have clarity of thought of what I'm going to say. So that's extremely important for me. And that's, I would say, is the fourth skill which you need to basically have. Number 5, simplifying complexity. This is extremely important. A lot of what you do may or may not be complex, depending on the job which you're doing, depending on the concept which you're trying to address. But if you're not able to explain it in 60 seconds, or if you're not able to explain it to a 10th school or a 10th standard pass, then you're not understood the concept well. This is a very, very powerful learning skill which you need to understand. And especially executives at the top are measured on this because somebody is asking me if I'm not able to explain to Mr. Premji or anybody else in the board or any leadership meeting, what exactly does this particular law mean in 60 to 120 seconds, or take about 2-3 minutes in explaining in what it is, and they're not able to understand it, then they will struggle. Simplifying complexity is important. Simplifying complexity can be built by, one of the skill I'm saying is it can be actually built over time by teaching to other people. So once you try and teach a concept to somebody in your peer, your classmate, your peer at work, somebody at home, somebody at family, if you do more and more of that, you'll be able to kind of look at, how you can really simplify complexity. And that to me is the number 5 skill which you basically need to have. Number 6, the effect of habit and compounding. I would, how do you really form habits, right? And if you read various articles on it, it says that you have to do something for 60 days to say 120 days for the habit to basically kind of form. I think it's important for you to understand how you have to create good habits. And what I mean by that is that I'm not trying to preach to the choir, not that I'm not trying to preach to you guys, or I'm not trying to advise you guys on how to have it, but I think the importance of doing things consistently. And therein lies the difference between simple and compounding. What do I mean by that? Let us say 1 to the power of 365 is what? 1, right? If you take 1 and do it by 365, it's 1, because 1 into 1 into 1, it's just 1. But 1.01 to the power of 365 is actually 37.7. So that 1% consistent small efforts every day to be able to drive something new has a compounding effect in the long term. So if you take a habit of reading, or if you take a habit of something you're struggling with, start small. Do it in small steps. It's okay, but do it consistently. Do it every day. Slowly it will start to build up, and you have to trust my experience on this, that I was not great at reading, but I just started reading slowly, but it just became a habit. And therefore, anything you want to do, whether you want to jog, whether you want to exercise, whether you want to write, whether you want to be reading books, or whether you want to be doing some activity, you want to be cycling, anything, you have to understand how to create a good habit and the effect of compounding. That's skill number 6. You should understand that template. And I will share maybe some books later on as we go through this discussion, but there are many books which you can read about it. But I think it's important. Skill number 6 is how habits are formed. You need to understand that. You need to appreciate that. Number 7, develop a network. And I want to give you what does a network mean? Network means today, for example, I'm the CFO of Wipro Enterprises. All the companies, I'm part of multiple forums, WhatsApp groups. One WhatsApp group, I'm part of all CFOs. Another WhatsApp group, I'm part of all the FMCG CFOs. Why do I need a network? And this starts small. This starts at your age, your ability to connect with people you understand, develop those small contacts. Because let me tell you, finally your learning comes from your network. When something of relevance happens to my organization, my first question to is, okay, what are my other CFOs doing about it? So can I give them a call? Can I understand that? So, we will share some perspective. Okay, this is what it is. And therefore, our ability to handle some complexity or some environment. For example, the whole lockdown. What happened in the lockdown? May 3rd, March end, the whole country went into lockdown. Great. So we were part of a group. I understood what FMCG companies were doing, how they were managing. So therefore, we were sharing notes. That was very, 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 very powerful. So you have to understand, you have to develop networks. It's extremely important for you to do that. Start now. Over time, it will become a competitive advantage. Let me give you one more example on that. When we entered into aerospace business around 2012, I believe, we used to make losses at that particular point in time because a new business Wipro did not understand. So what I did was I met every CFO in the country who was in aerospace. I really understood what's actually going on with all of them. And then I made a note internally for my leadership to say, look, these are some of the inherent challenges in the business. So the networks today your network can be your fundamental competitive advantage. Make sure you're developing a network for yourself. Number 8, be prepared in discussions and meetings. This is very, very important. One of the things I ask myself whenever I'm going into a meeting, either with my team or with my bosses or with the peer group, the thing I ask myself is, did I really add value? Did I really add value in that particular meeting? And I will ask this question at the end of this session also, that did I really say anything meaningful or not? It's a great point for me to reflect. Nobody has to tell me, but my own conscience, my own filter will be able to tell me whether I really fundamentally added value or not. That's why use every discussion and meeting as an opportunity for you to go and figure out whether, come prepared, do your homework and come. I do my homework. So before a review with Mr. Premji, I will absolutely prepare like an exam, like the way I prepared for a chartered accountant exam. That's the way I will sit and prepare. I will go back through every note over the last 5 years, 7 years. What are the fundamental issues? Understand world economics, understand business dynamics, understand. So all that I will do a refresh. Not that I don't know, but I do that preparation and go in, because when I'm prepared, I will be able to answer questions and I will be able to add value to the meeting. And most importantly, I will be able to carry conviction of what I'm saying. And that's what the leadership looks at. So that's extremely important for you to look at, and therefore go very prepared in discussions and meeting. Okay, skill number 9, I'm talking about multi-skilling. This is an important concept for me. If you look at my career, but you also have to, if you look at my career, I've been doing various roles in various businesses. Okay. So multi-skilling really means 3 things. First, you should do various functions in your career: treasury, controllership, taxation, FP&A, manufacturing finance, commercial finance. So you should do that. That's how you should look at your functional aspects. Number 2, you should look at multi functions within the business itself. So what I mean by that is, you have to look at supply chain financing, you should look at marketing, you should look at sales. So you should go and touch one other function other than your core finance. Number 3, you should be in multiple businesses. You should at least experience 2-3 businesses. What that does to you, therefore, is to basically have or prepare you to have a generalist view in things. You become a generalist in what you're actually doing. Now, it's a career choice. Sometimes people say that, look, I want to specialize in tax and therefore I'm going to be, just focusing on tax, which is fine. If that's your calling, you should do that. You should actually specialize in a subject which you're very passionate about, which is fine. But even in that, let me tell you, you will become very good at a specialization if you have experience in some other function or business or some other domain, because then you understand the practicality of your knowledge and domain, and the intersection of both of them is when excellence can truly kind of happen. That's what you have to basically remember, that from a function standpoint, you have to do multiple things in finance, try and do one more function other than core finance, like sourcing, supply chain, anything. And the number 3 is do more businesses, try and become a generalist. The future is about generalists largely. rightly. Number 10. Number 10 is what? Move away from your comfort zone. By default, take the toughest job, go out of your comfort zone, get out of your city, go and do something in a plant, go and do something else somewhere. You have to move out of your comfort zone. Trust my experience. When I actually joined General Electric, I joined in Bangalore, but they sent me to Nadiad for 8 months. They said you have to sit in the plant because there's some issue there. I said, okay. So I went there. There's very, it's a place in Gujarat at that particular point in time. There are not many facilities, but I stayed there. That was very, very true for my, and very, very useful for my experience. So you have to look at your comfort zone. Don't go say, look, I want to do this because I'm good at this. Don't think like that. You have to get out of your comfort zone. That's a skill number 10. And I say that's a skill because for you to ability to move out of your comfort zone, you need to have that drive and passion to be able to kind of do it, right? Number 11, and this is an important one. 6 years or 6 to 7 years of my career, I worked in the US. This is extremely important. Look, if you're getting a chance to work abroad, you should grab it. It may not give the greatest salary, there could be other considerations, but if you're getting an opportunity in whatever in life you're doing, you should actually take that opportunity. It will change your perspective to know absolutely, nobody can explain that change in the perspective. Working in the US for me was singularly one of my biggest issues, biggest experiences I've had in working with the Americans, working with people who are not of Indian nationality, and really understanding how that particular country functions, how the society functions, and interacting with all of them at a very deep level really, really helped me a lot in the long run. So you should look at that. And therefore, I'm calling out that as a skill. And the skill, the way I would say it, is really opportunities for you to work other than your own home environment or your country environment. Grab it. Okay, number 12. Very, very important skill, probably singularly the most important skill which you're going to need in the future are the soft skills. Let me tell you that attitude trumps intelligence every time. Teams outperform individuals every time. You heard of the Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs are typically people, they are the elite American force. And every time they have come back with the response to basically say it's not about the intelligence of one person, but how people collectively work in teams. How do you really work in teams is basically your ability to get along well with others, your ability to take, contribute to others, your ability to add value to the others, the ability to put others before yourself is singularly the most important. So the soft skills, I don't hire the smartest person in the room. Let me tell you, I don't need the smartest person in the room. I can teach whatever I need to teach to that individual, but that person has to basically bring in the right attitude, the right mindset to say, look, I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to contribute to this organization. I want to put the organization ahead of me. And in the long run, that will pay you off. Let me tell you, the digital world is going to be completely like that. You go to a startup. What happens in a startup? There are 4 people. You think the 4 people will decide that, look, I will do only function, I will do only this, I will do only that. No. 4 people get together and say, look, I'm still doing a startup, and therefore, look, we will all try and do whatever we can to make the startup going forward. That's the mindset I'm looking for. That's the soft skill I'm looking for. Soft skills will trump intellectual skills every time and all the time. So you got to keep that in mind. How do you develop skills? You must have empathy for people. You must have ability to network with people. You must have ability to engage with people. It's very, very important. That will be a differentiator for you in the future. Let me tell you, not the most intelligent in your class is going to become the most successful. Of course, they can be the most successful, but that's not because of their intelligence, but it's because of their attitude. And every time in the last 25 plus years I have worked, I've always found it 100% of the time that soft skills trumps any kind of intellectual ability you may or may not have. Not to say that you have, you cannot not to say that you can, one can actually compromise the other. All I'm just saying is that for you to further yourself, make sure that you have in your toolkit the soft skills which is required. Number 13, very, very important, and maybe a lot of you will not understand this today, and you have to go back to my statement earlier that some of this may take time for it to resonate for you. But number 13 for me is ability to listen. You can't be full of yourself. You have to have the ability to listen to what the other individuals are saying. Leadership's biggest issue today, if you look at corporate India, global corporate, wherever, ability to listen what the employees are saying, what the customers are saying. It's an important skill. Google about it. What does it mean? Ability to listen, ability to kind of listen to what is actually kind of happening, ability to listen to the people. I'm calling this out different from the skills, the soft skills, is because I just find that ability to listen, people really don't have it. And I find 80% of the people I engage with at my team, when I say my team at larger, corporation, they lack in it. So you have to have the ability to listen. And it's at multiple levels. Your boss is telling you something, listen to what he's saying and then respond. Because if you keep your ability to listen to what people are saying, you will be able to course correct, respond much faster, better than anybody else. Okay, number 14, beware of fatal flaws. What is the definition of a fatal flaw? Let's say I have 5 qualities. Okay, I'm a great listener. I'm a great orator. I read very well. I have a great ability to do math. Okay, let's say 4 skills which I have. And the 5th skill, I say, look, I just don't have any ability to write properly. Let me tell you, that's a fatal flaw. A fatal flaw is a flaw in your own makeup, which obliterates or negates every other good thing which you have. So you have to watch out that did you have any fatal flaws as you go through your career? And it's a marathon. It's not something here and now, but understand that you must understand that what are your flaws? What are your drawbacks? What are your blind spots? Start reflecting on them early on so that you ensure that there is no one quality. You cannot be great at everything. I mean, you can be great at M&A, but maybe you may be good enough in controllership or something like that, which is okay. But you cannot be so bad at something as a senior leader that completely blanks out every other good quality you have. That's why I'm saying it's an ability, to avoid having a fatal flaw. 15, the last one is basically, just want to say this, that the only thing which you need to keep in mind is the skill which will differentiate for you in the future is learning. Every day, till you're working, after you're working, you have to be at it. It's a continuous journey. So therefore, you have to make sure that you're good at learning new things, learning new concepts. Suppose I give you a concept, how good you're at and preparing for that and how good you'll be able to come back. Because why? Data has got democratized today. 90% of the content, as I already told you, is already available on the internet. So data has got democratized. It's not in the purview or the privy of a selected few or a privileged few. Everybody is available. I mean, if both of us were given a topic today, let's say on let us say how to get to the moon. I don't know, you also don't know, but both of us can go to the internet, read about it, and come back and make a presentation to Sripal Jain to say, like, this is the way you can do it. And both of us will be having the same resources to do it from the internet. And therefore, you have to remember, it is about learning. The ability to learn is a skill. It's a toolkit which you develop, and over time, and if you remember that, how do you really make it habit? Try and learn about new things every day. Just read something in the article, some news item, something very odd. And that's how the brain really rewires to basically think in terms of do that. It's the most important skill which I'm going to, which I would say is absolutely important for the decade. So that brings to my end of what I really wanted to say from a top skill standpoint. And let me very quickly repeat, most importantly, I want to tell you that what I'm telling you is not a template. These are pointers. You have to contextualize for this in your own life, for whatever you're doing and however you're doing. And tomorrow, after 10 years, some of you will come back and tell me, Raghav, look, this is a new skill which you want to say. But very quickly, where you come from does not matter. Reading is a new competitive advantage, increasing digital quotient, the effect, writing skills, simplifying complexity, the effect of habit and compounding, developing a network, completely being prepared in discussions and meeting, multi-skilling, moving away from comfort zone, ability to work abroad or in an environment which is different from where you're working. Soft skills is absolutely key. Ability to listen, be aware of the fatal flaws that can get you down, and learning is a continuous process. So that brings to my end, and hopefully I was not too fast and I was reasonably clear in what I'm saying, but I just thought it's best I share things which made sense for me.
So thank you so much, Raghav. That is an example of a great personality who don't use the PPT and make it a 15-pointer list and ensures that everyone kind of understand that, remembers it and applies it. So I was seeing that in the panelists and attendees, everyone have noted down each and every point. It has been a focused 38 minutes. I would have been glad had I got that faculty at Simandhar Education who can teach so beautifully and can engage everyone. I think this has to be one of the best sessions. At least from my perspective, I have not even moved from my desk. So I was just observing and noting down each and everything. And I was waiting what will be the next skill which Raghav would talk about. That is my personal feedback. I'll leave up to the panelists and attendees. Guys, please raise your hands and Harish will unmute you and you can ask your questions to Raghav. Thank you so much, Raghav. That was an amazing and fantabulous session. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sripal. Thanks. Yeah.
Guys, you can post your question in the chat box also, and I'll read it for Raghav, sir, and he can answer you.
Prasad, go ahead.
Yeah, very good morning, sir. Thanks for a wonderful session early in the morning. Actually, a good start to the day. So my question is whether a company like Wipro, which is one of the top companies in India when it comes to IT, whether they would give preferences. I'm not talking only about Wipro. I'm talking about a company in other domain as well. Whether they will be giving preferences to qualifications or skill sets, means how do a person actually sell themselves when it comes to getting something of a company of a Wipro kind of a thing. Actually. So I'm talking more from a semi-qualified point of view. They have the right skill sets, but if they don't make it, what is the options that they have to get into a company as yours?
Yeah, sure. It's not that all roles I look at qualification. So there are roles which in my company, which is basically even a semi-qualified person can do. In fact, 2-3 roles are very specifically, I don't necessarily want a qualified person. And we are always open to looking at semi-qualified people. There are certain roles, if I have to, get a new batch in, then I insist on qualification. But I think that important that we don't have any conditions, but if there is an available, but to answer your question, there are roles which some semi-qualified person can do, but the role has to be available. More than happy to look at that.
Yeah, Akansha,
Great. So,
I have just.
Hello. Hello, am I audible?
yes, Akansha. Yes, Akansha.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Good morning, sir. Thank you so much, firstly, for such a wonderful presentation. We are really glad to listen to you, and we are really privileged. Sir, I wanted to ask you, what does Wipro has for future of finance professionals? Like we finance professionals are also trying to move to the technology field, like fintech and everything. So, how is Wipro looking forward to welcome finance professionals who are interested in technology and having opportunities in fintech?
No,
The
sure.
technology form,
Yeah.
technology transformation of finance sector.
No, absolutely. So if you're, specifically, if you're looking at a career in fintech, you should look at fintech as a career. I mean, a lot of fintech companies you should look at that. But you have to be clear that are you looking for being a finance person in a fintech organization, or having the skill sets of both finance and fintech and understanding in what Wipro is. Now, Wipro is not into fintech, but technology itself per se is a separate thread in Wipro in terms of how do you close books of account, order to pay, record to report, order to, your multiple purchase to pay, purchase to pay. So that we look at technology in various aspects, but specifically in fintech, we don't necessarily kind of do that. I mean, the only thing which I can think of is, doing the trade payments where, we can bring in technology, but we may go to a third party. So you have to see whether your calling is really, I mean, is something which you want to do specifically in fintech, or is there something which, you want to do in finance and technology? You can do multi, and that's the beauty. I'm telling you, the future is really about unique skill sets and people who, who are good in 3, 4, 5 things. So that's what I think you have to keep in perspective. But specifically in Wipro, we don't necessarily look at fintech as a specific qualification or specialized skills which we need today. But from a IT standpoint, and I mean finance, but from an IT standpoint, you have to remember that if you are going to be dealing with our clients on the IT side, very much so. But that, I think there is a way. There is a way you can get through. There is an exam and there is an annual thing which you basically do. But if you're really talking about not within Wipro, but from a Wipro standpoint, dealing with clients outside, yes, it's a skill absolutely which we think is useful.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
I think I
Raghav sir.
Yes.
Oh, good morning, sir. I feel very delighted talking to you. So my question is like, what I'm seeing you today is the more refined Raghavan, sir. So when you initially started your career, did you have that fear, or how did you overcome that fear? Like, why I'm asking this question is that we being youngsters always compare ourselves with our peers. If something they're good at, then we step back and think that we are not good at so and so skill. So when you started your career, how did you manage that?
Okay, great question. And I want to answer this one. Look, you have to go back to this point of what I told about habits. You don't worry about it. And I'm going to give you this one. You could not have a worse experience than me, let me tell you. And therefore, anything, you will be better than me. When I was in school, my first debate, which I went to, I prepared a speech, and I wrote down the speech. Okay. And then I got into a debate and I'm supposed to give that speech. I actually, when I started speaking, I looked into the judge's eyes and I forgot what I was speaking. I actually had to stop what I was speaking. It was terrible for me. So that's where I started, by the way. So how do I get over it? You have to just keep doing more and more. Nothing is a rocket science. Let me tell you, the human mind is capable much more than what we can think of. And that's why I always say, don't ever look at your background, where you come from, all this. Never look at it. It is equal to all, and you have to truly believe that, believe in yourself. And it's okay even if you fall a few times. It's perfectly fine. Don't get into cynics. Don't let people don't let criticism get to you. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not good at this or anything like that. You just focus. You said you will be good at it. Just whatever is it you want to choose. If you want to start speaking, do that. I can give you two things. I don't know if your specific question was the ability to talk or ability to orate, but if it's ability to talk, I'll give you one thing which you can do in your free time. What you should do is you should open a book and read aloud the English sentences. Okay, just read a full page. Just read it aloud. Just do it few times. You will see in 2 to 3 weeks your ability to actually talk will be better. If you have discomfort in speaking, so just open a book and just read the book aloud.
Yeah, Ashrit, that kind of answers your question.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hiral, I've just unmuted you. Hiral, can you go ahead, please?
Hi, Raghav sir. Good morning.
Hi.
It's really a privilege to listen to you and talk to you in person. Uh, so my question is like the automation is the new code, the new buzz of the industry. Organizations spend a lot on the license software and even encourages the employees to learn like Alteryx, UiPath, Tableau. But after a point, sir, it becomes very clerical and mechanical in nature, running the automations. After that point, the technical skills, like I am into you preparing us state tax returns, the technical skills takes a backseat, the fundamentals of the learning takes a backseat. So can you give a measure where we can balance both technology and the technical skill set at run set part?
Sure, that's a great question. That's Hiral, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, you have to understand that repetitive tasks are going to get automated in the future. Let me tell you, 20 years from now, a lot of thing is going to get, technology is already here. If you think it's coming out in the future, you guys are all thinking wrong. Technology is already impacting jobs in a way, unprecedented way. So you have to remember that if technology is going to basically kind of do that, then what is your role? And therefore you should start looking at, the balancing will always happen based on what technology can do or cannot do and the ability of the adoption of the technology on a large scale basis, right? So if more and more companies adopt it, then less and less work specifically in that particular area as well. So if you're really seeing that in your role or in what you're doing, then you should ask yourself, should I be doing something else? Because in another 10 years, that role itself may not be there, or 5 years, the role itself may not, because technology is becoming better, faster, more more agile. Technology is fundamentally becoming more and more agile. So the balancing is really about, what else you want to do, specifically in that. And if you're not really enjoying, then you should look at, if you think more automation is going to happen, then you should look at what other skill sets I can add to my bag. That's important.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
That answers the question. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Have a nice
Sure.
day.
Kaushal, I've just unmuted you.
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Raghav. Good morning.
Hi.
Kaushal Sangvi here. Sir, just now, as you explained to Hiral on her question, my question is somewhat similar to what she asked. Like today, how do you see the future of finance professionals in the era of artificial intelligence, and how the perspective of a finance professional can be look beyond the number crunching or variance analysis that they do, or the return on investment or the CAGR, and finally they want to see the bottom line. And that is what, of course, as the senior management, they want, and they always focus on the bottom line. So how do you see the role of a finance professional in that perspective?
Sure. So I'll start with what I do. 80% of my job is not finance. Okay, let me tell you. I stopped doing finance a long time back, though I'm the CFO of the organization. The point I'm trying to make is that repetitive tasks will get automated, clearly. That's number one. Take it from me that it will get automated. It's happening at a scale which will accelerate as we go forward. Number two, you should orient yourself as a business leader. When I say a business leader, finance is the domain which you are prepared in. You understand finance, that's great. But you have to understand business first. And that's very, very important. I understand controllership functions and specialist functions like tax. But even there, you should understand yourself as a business and what business you are in and what you're really kind of doing. Because if you are fast forwarded 20, 30 years from now, as I said, generalists and all these skills I basically kind of mentioned, you will be valued not because you're excellent in math. You will be valued fundamentally because you're able to be at the intersection of 4 or 5 areas together and give a very powerful point of view. So you understand technology, you understand finance, you understand business, and therefore you'll be able to make a concoction and come up with something which is unique and you know what you're doing. You have to keep that in mind as you kind of move forward. Basic number crunching, basic automated repeated tasks will start coming down as we as we kind of move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harish, can you take it up from the Q&A window if you have anything?
Yes, sir. Just a moment. We have few questions in the Q&A thing as well. We have a question from Srikant. It says, Raghav sir, any downtimes in your career and how did you come across?
Any what times?
Any downtimes?
Oh, yes. Oh, great question. In fact, I wish I had addressed it as a skill itself, but that's what I said. It's a great question. Many times I've had down. It's in a long career, you will have ups and downs. Sometimes you will go through difficult situations. You will go through things which have not going in your favor. You may not get some promotion. You may actually be passed on to something else. You may make mistakes which not necessarily are yours, but you can do that. I think the important thing is to really ask yourself 2, 3 things: what I could have done better in that whole thing, how I should have approached that whole issue. That's one. And you should ask yourself what you would have done differently, because you can. And this is a very important concept. Whatever happens to you in life, don't externalize it. Don't externalize it to your parents. Don't externalize it to your teachers. Don't externalize it to your bosses. Don't externalize it to your company. Don't externalize it to your managers. You have to take control of your life. Because the moment you externalize it in your mind, you're fundamentally saying, look, I did what I could do. Outcome did not happen. I really blame my boss for that. Never get into that mindset. So never externalize. But when you go through your downtimes and when you go through something which has happened, which is a mistake, then 2 questions. Singular biggest question you should ask yourself is what you could have done differently. So that will give you some pointers. Second thing I want to tell you is it will pass. Don't worry about it. In 6 months, 8 months, you'll forget and move on. So don't worry about it. And in the end, you will not remember those incidents. You will only remember the good things. So don't worry about it.
Thank you, sir. Srikant, I hope sir answered your question. We have one more question from Suman Sharma. Sir, it says, good morning, sir. How to build a habit of consistency? I always lag here doing consistently.
Okay. I'm going to suggest a book for you. Let me tell you. I'm not able to get the book, but I'm just Googling it. Hold on. Okay, I don't remember the book's name, but once if I get it to Sripal, I will forward it to Sripal. The book's name. You're right. I also struggle with consistency. I struggle with consistency. I decide. Let me give you an example. I said that every week I have to exercise at least 5 times. I end up doing once, right? And I think many of us have gone through this, right? So it's a struggle. See, you have to incentivize yourself to do these small things. Don't take very big steps. Take small steps. If you want to do something, do it for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but just do it every day. Don't try and say that I'm going to now run for 1 hour. I'm going to study for 5 hours together. Don't do that. You study for 1 hour. I don't know what the issue specifically to you is, but whatever it is, take small steps. Don't try and take big steps and therefore you will fall. But there's a very powerful book by actually, yes. The powerful book which I would suggest on habits is a book by James Clear. It's called Atomic Habits. Okay, maybe your organization can buy, Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a bestseller. I would, go for it. I think in Amazon it costs about 300 rupees, but you could hear it on audio also. I would recommend that book for everybody just to see. Not that I have any connection with James Clear, let me tell you. So I don't know the person, but please read that book. It will give you a very interesting insight on how you develop habits.
I'll just unmute Lipsa there. Lipsa, can you please go ahead?
Hi, sir. Very good morning.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask you about this multi-skilling. You just talked about like you yourself have worked under multiple different profiles and in your career. So similarly, even I feel that many people would have been doing that. Even in my career, like it's not been that long, 5-6 years of my career, I have also been into different profiles. I have been doing different things, but when I go for my next interview or something, then I am being told that okay, you are not you don't stick to one thing for a very long time, you move on, you as in. So for me it's like it becomes very mundane to work with the same thing like sit for 6-8 months. I get bored. I want new challenges. I want to go move on. Like I want to learn new things. So either in my same organization, I take up something else, or I go for some new projects or something. So but that's not very well taken when I'm interviewing for some other organization or something. Like they judge me on this, that okay, you don't stick to one profile for very long. So don't you think it's like it's a little bit contradictory that you need to upscale everything, like you need to learn more skills, but also people want you to be in a single profile for a longer time, so that you can be expertise this in the same profile or so. So again, it's
Sure. No, I got your question. Thanks. It's a great question. And I'm glad you asked that, so that people understand what I mean by multi-scaling. I have really worked only for two organizations, General Electric and Wipro. General Electric, I was there for 10 years. Wipro, I've been there for 15 years. So my first input to anybody who, when I say multi-scaling, is 8 months is too small. You should look at it. You should give it at least a couple of years, because your ability to, and it comes from a scientific study which was done in General Electric, which basically said that when does a person really add value to the job? He takes 1 year to figure out what the job is all about. He or she takes 1 year to actually do that. And then it takes time to really, 1.5 years, and then it really times to take, build a career. So anywhere between 2 to 3 years is where I would typically say do a particular role, because that's number one. Number two, I would say that if you work in an organization which is large enough to manage this change, that's great. Fortunately for me, I was, it was I was part of two. I was part of two large organizations. I am part of one large organization now. I had the ability to kind of move into multiple roles. So you have to frame that. Yes, you're right, absolutely, that if you change every 8-9 months, people will say that you're switching jobs. So I would say at least, give it 3 years. If you're not able to find it within your own organization, you should actually then at least spend 3 years or something, and then you can actually switch roles. Number two, another thing I want to tell you is that before you ask for a change, you make sure that you have done a damn good job at what you're doing. Because, otherwise people will think that you're just asking because, you're just getting bored, and, you have to make sure that you have delivered better than the rest. About, you have delivered really, really kind of well. So that's important. So before you ask your organization, I think it's important that you demonstrate to them that you've done an outstanding kind of a job. But that's the broad frame I would have. So it's not counterintuitive. I'm just saying the timeline which you're stating for yourself, I think is a bit too small. You have to give it more time. I took over as the CFO of Wipro Enterprises in 2014 or something like that. So it's about 6-7 years now. I can tell you first couple of years I struggled because the role was much bigger than me. So it took time. It's just the way, all roles are. Sometimes you'll be able to hit the ground running. Sometimes it takes time. So you have to keep that perspective in mind. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Somehow, somewhat.
Yeah, you can't be switching jobs very frequently. People will frown upon that. And 6 months is too little.
No, I was actually talking about switching roles rather in the
Yeah,
same
even
company.
role 6 months, even role 6 months is too little. I don't know what the role you're doing, but 6 months is just too little. It takes time. Because you see, in any role, you can hit the ball out of the park, you can completely change the role, you can bring in a lot more automation, but that takes time to kind of do it. But if you truly believe that you have done an outstanding job in 6 months, yeah, go ahead and ask saying that. But you're more important, whether you believe it or not, you may believe it, but your manager has to believe it, that you're also.
Yeah, okay. I get it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Guys, keeping the time in mind, so let's take last two questions and then we'll try to wrap up the session.
So I think in Q&A we have Raghav a question from Hina. I think in business it's important to have track of the current with a vision for the future. How does one do it without leaning more towards one side?
Once I repeat the question.
Or Hina, can you just raise your hand? I saw you raising the hand, and I think because of the time, because the question looks incomplete. So in business, it's important to have track of the current with a vision for the future. How does one do it without leaning more towards one side?
Yeah, I want to introduce a concept. I want to introduce a concept today that, let me just, I'm sorry, I think the video went off this way. Are you able to see me?
Yes, Anand.
Yeah, okay, sorry. So I'll talk about a concept which got popularized by Jeff Bezos on Amazon, but I would say it's just a concept. He's given a nomenclature for it. I forget what he called it, but it's called reversible decisions. What do I mean by that? Reversible decision is whenever you're taking a decision in business, there are three fundamental stages. I would say this is true for the digital world. Not so much. If you ask 10, 15 years later, before, I would have spoken about it differently. But in the digital age, there are two things becomes which are important. Very quickly, how you're able to establish proof of concept, make the mistake. If some mistakes come, if you're launching a new product, be really fast to make the mistake and learn from it. And then cut your losses if it's much faster before it actually sinks the whole thing. So that's a concept which more companies have started to follow now. That historically they used to do a lot of study, lot of research to figure out which is the right thing to do. Now it's much faster. That the tempo has gone much faster. So you have to keep that in mind. So essentially, the question you're asking is, how do I so that I don't go on one side? I tried to categorize decisions in my space as reversible or non-reversible. And I will try and make decisions more reversible till I reach that point that, look, I'm ready to now cast it in stone and say that, look, I'm ready to commit and go ahead. And there is no reversing from it. Or the consequences of reversing is going to be much high, is very high. So that's the way I look at frame reversible and non-reversible decisions. I don't know whether they'll answer your questions, but I think that's what you were asking.
Yeah. I think Harish, we have lost you. So Pavani have a question. Good morning, Raghav. So it's an absolutely wonderful session. My question is how to stay motivated all the time. There are times being very happy and performing tasks with full of energy, but also at times when suddenly past failures come to mind that impacts the entire day or few more. And could you please tell some ways to overcome these kind of miserable times?
No, again, good question. I go through it in my career, my life. So I do have those bouts of self-doubt. I have gone through it. Even now, sometimes, did I do the right decision or not? So, two things. What I would say is, look, there is no hard and fast response to it, but when you're going through, when you're feeling down a bit, or if you're feeling really sad about it, 2 life skills, let me tell you, which is helped me. Hopefully, it'll help you. Do something physical. Go with a group. Do something physical. Either go for a long run, because chemically that releases dopamine in your body. Okay, so that's number one. Simple physical thing. Second thing is, which I have found useful, is be with your friends. I have my WhatsApp buddies who I know for now 30, 40 years. So they don't care whether I'm a CFO or not. So be with your friends. They will lighten things for you. But there is no way. You have to counter it, not get into the trap of going back into the past. And let me tell you, the past should not hold you. To me, it does not matter. You can say you're from some village, whatever. Don't let the past hold you back. Move ahead.
I'm just unmuting Maina. Maina, go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning all, and good morning, sir. Well,
Hi.
I have a question. As you brought into the picture of Jeff Bezos, I heard after reading an article, he stressed upon the point of emotional intelligence. So, how do one inculcate in between that inside an organization?
Great question. The point, that's the skill, the soft skills, I think it was the point number 13, 12 or something, which I said. Soft skills, one of them is emotional intelligence, empathy. Emotional intelligence comes from the underlying emotion. Under emotional intelligence is empathy. It is to understand what the other person, or feel the other person as though you were the other person, right? Emotional intelligence, high emotional intelligence helps you basically listen better, appreciate people better, be thankful, have more gratitude, and that's what drives it. In an organization, you have to characterize the organization with your stakeholders. So if you're dealing with some 5 or 7 stakeholders, you have to ask yourself, okay, who's this guy? What kind of a person he is? And therefore, if he's an important stakeholder for you, how do you really kind of map him? I think you should ask yourself that question. And number 2, there you have to demonstrate what you can do or cannot do with the stakeholders, because sometimes the stakeholder may not have any emotional intelligence. You may not have any emotional intelligence. But as it relates to the organization, you have to map your stakeholders. Don't try to boil the earth. At least the people whom you deal with. If you think somebody is troubling you a lot, go and do a small favor for him. And there I bring in the concept of banking. I have a very simple frame of how I look at relationships, especially in corporate life. I basically say, look, a relationship with anybody else is like a bank. The more you deposit into the bank, the better the return will be, which means the more help you do the other guy, the better return you're going to get from that guy in terms of driving your own outcomes. The more you withdraw from that bank and you don't deposit as much, it's going to actually have the reverse impact. Simple concept. Keep it in mind that important people, for you to drive your outcome, make sure you are banking enough with them.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you.
I think we have one last question, because we are already above 1 hour 30 minutes, almost closer to that. I think 1 hour 15 minutes. Remita has that question: will corporates embrace gig workers to spur the economy?
See, I want to tell you that the concept of gig working is a concept which is picking up pace, but it has not seen large scale adoption in India. I think the more skills, basically where it's outsourced or crowdsourced, the gig economy will come into play. So embracing is a function of the fact that whether it makes economic sense and business sense for the organization. So if a short answer to your question, yes, driven by the business need, corporates will do more and more of gig economy, but that's not because they were charitable per se. It's not because they want to drive a big gig economy. they will doing that because of their own interest, because they believe that, look, it's the ideal way. It's a win-win both for the worker and for the organization. If you're able to drive an outcome, but I'm not asking you to come to office, I'm asking you to only work 2 hours a day, I'm giving you flexibility to go and do something else, you drive an outcome. And like all things in life, demand and supply will actually determine this. Adoption is far bigger in the United States, or some of the developed countries, because I think they are in a fundamentally very different place. India is still we still have some ways to go. I do, if there's no question, I know there's one, Sripal, I just want to take one question, which I've heard a lot, and a lot of people have asked me this. And let me actually talk about that a bit, because in various forums, people have asked me. And that is, some people have asked me whether I should join a startup, whether I should join a smaller organization, bigger organization, and all that. And I just want to make it very simple for you guys. Whatever you experience, and that's one of the things which I told you in one of the skills, that go out of your comfort zone. A, B, go for experience always. So it's okay if you work in a startup, work for 2-3 years, and then kind of figure out what you need to do. If you get into a larger organization, you will be able to build more competency, is my view. But that's a view coming from the past, so you have to experience it for yourself. Larger organizations will have the ability to do more stuff for you, but if you're not able to get through, start with a startup and then you can build from there. I don't think it's an either or. There are preferences. Go back to my definition of how you build competencies and trying to build those. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raghav sir. That was an amazing session. I think that's what Pavani is writing. Each and every word you spoke is just crystal clear, Raghav sir. Thank you very much for this fantastic session. I think I just actually second that. Thank you so much, Raghav sir. It has been an amazing session. We all have enjoyed it thoroughly. And I hope that we apply this. I think this is the last skill, or I would say it's from my side, because everyone listens, but then they don't apply this. So my humble request to all the attendees who are there, please take one skill from my side also. Please apply whatever Raghav has spoken about, because it's all about application end of the day, right? So use that and see and experience what all are the skill sets which were being discussed. So experience comes only when you apply it, right? Thank you so much, Raghav sir. That was an absolutely amazing session. Over to you, Harish. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Raghav sir. On behalf of every student who have attended this session, Sripal sir, do you think we need to tell Raghav sir about the initiative which we have taken as a good habit?
Oh yeah, actually, we actually started. We did that before last year. We did a morning 4 a.m. contest for these students. It was not a contest. We ran a revision classes whereby all our faculties woke up at morning 4 a.m. It was for 1 week. We did that, and this year we had a 4 a.m. MCQ contest. 21 days we did that, and Basit from one of our students who won that contest. So among all of them, I think 50 to 60 people have woken up 4 o'clock for consistent 21 days. And so we shortlisted 5 people out of that. I think Pavani is already there in the session today. So she was also from one of them. And I woke up at morning 3 o'clock, took that quiz at 4 o'clock, and gave the winner at 4:30. So that's how it has been. So they have been really, I think I am very lucky to have such kind of people who are at least are waking up early and respecting our words. And to be honest, it's very, very difficult to wake up early. I have experienced that. I'm so happy that they have been doing it for 21 days. And the contest have ended last week, and Basit have won that actually.
Awesome. Great. Congratulations to everybody. Congratulations for taking the initiative. Great. So thank you, Sripal, Harish. Thank you, Simandhar Education. It was wonderful. I enjoyed the interaction. Hopefully, a little of what I spoke about makes sense. But as I said, you have to contextualize in this in your own lives. Wish you the very, very, very best. You guys are the future of this country, country. I have a great, great belief. I'm a huge optimist in my life that the next generation always will be much better than the previous generation. I completely believe that I don't think the previous generations are going to be a patch on the you guys. So really the future, and all the very best. You can connect me in LinkedIn, stay in touch. My role really as a future as we go forward is to make sure that the most important thing for me in my life is today is that if I've impacted somebody's life positively, that to me is the only takeaway which I want, and nothing else at all. All right. Wish you the very best. God bless. Take care.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Raghav, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.